when it came to the offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference portion, I'll just quickly repeat it here. Al showed all these cut-ups of moments from last season, and he would pause it, and he would ask the room, would you flag this for offensive pass interference? Yes, no. Okay. If there was no flag, would you put one down through replay? Yes, no. And he chose plays that were razor thin. I mean, and these are moments that are going to happen. Now, if they happen during the regulation portion of the game outside of 2 minutes, it's going to have to come from the coach's challenge. And I don't think you're going to see a lot of these.
Coach's challenges?
Based on what I'm about to repeat as well. Because in the last 2 minutes, everything comes from the booth at the stadium, not from New York City, because they can't keep track of all these games. Because this is going to take a serious look-see here. And in order to buzz down in the last 2 minutes, and in order to actually have one put down on the field during a coach's challenge or pick one up during coach's challenge, it's got to be a clear and obvious penalty with significant hindrance. Those are the verbiage. That's the words that they're using. And in the last 2 minutes, that's what's going to have to happen in order to get buzzed down. Like you might see something, why aren't they buzzing down? Because they've decided that there's nothing clear and obvious, and they've decided that there's no significant hindrance. And if it's a 2-minute drill, they couldn't determine it while you're.
That's what I mean. I wonder if we're going to see people kind of hurry up play in 2 minutes on a.
But sometimes they will stop it if they believe in real time with the naked eye what they saw. And that includes Brandon Cooks in the Super Bowl for the Rams towards the end of the game, where I thought he was interfered with, but there was no flag on the play. But after further review, you could see, I think it was Stephon Gilmore's hand just come in and yank his left arm.
Yeah, the next play was an interception.
Right. That would have been a reviewable play in the Super Bowl under this year's guidelines, and they would have reversed it to a defensive pass interference flag on the spot.
That could have potentially made the game 10-10.
Well, one would think the next pass wouldn't have been the same deep pass and wouldn't have been interception.
Or they would have had it at the 1 and maybe Tugger.
No, it wouldn't have been the 1. It wasn't in the end zone. That play,
that play was at the 1 or 2 yard line.
I mean, I thought it was inside the 10. Wherever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever it wasn't in the end zone.
Yeah.
Okay. What was in the end zone that he showed was Week 15, Thursday Night Football, Chargers down 7, needing to win the game to even have a shot at the AFC West. And if you remember, with 15 seconds to go or 13 seconds to go, Phillip Rivers throws it in the end zone. Mike Williams is interfered with by Kendall Fuller of the Chiefs. First and goal from the 1 with 8 seconds to go. Next 2 plays are the same 2 plays that they flipped it to wide open Mike Williams twice in a row, one for the score for a touchdown, and the next one for a remarkable 2-point conversion. They got out of Dodge with a win in Kansas City. We talked all about it for the rest of the weekend because it was an amazing finish. Well, under the new rules, because it's in the last 2 minutes, they would have buzzed down to take a look at that defensive pass interference penalty, according to Al Riveron, because there was enough there to see was there any contact. After further review, the play had to stand as called. The penalty had to stand as called because there was nothing clear and obvious that they could see on replay to overturn it. However, what they caught on replay, because anytime you replay anything in the NFL, this is in the rules, everything that is reviewable under the hood that you see is open for review. Anything that's reviewable, 12 men on the field, right? Name anything that's reviewable, it's reviewed under replay. Well, that now includes offensive pass interference, and upon further review, you could see Mike Williams pushing off on Fuller. So they would have had the play stand as called with defensive pass interference, but would have put a flag on the field for offensive pass interference, meaning offsetting penalties. And Phillip Rivers and the Chargers would have to try again, down 7 with 8 seconds to go. And I raised my hand at that point in time, because again, these people have been over and over and over and over this with coaches and executives and front office executives and league executives. They've been over. I mean, the number of times this has been parsed, so this is not the first time they heard. I said, hey, I think fans are going to be pretty outraged by this because they view this new rule of replay is to fix what happened in the NFC Championship game, not fix the fact that Mike Williams was interfered with. Mike Williams was interfering with Kendall Fuller in an offensive pass interference. Right. Like, this is not the sort of parsing we want. We're looking to fix egregious errors not parse errors that were ordinarily for the last 100 years just judgment rules. And their answer was, we hear you, we get it, we have to be consistent with the replay rules, which is when you're under the hood, everything that's reviewable can be reviewed even if it wasn't called. So that's the way they have to be consistent doing it, and they understand this might not be the spirit of why they've changed the rule to include it in replay, but they still have to be consistent, and this is going to be for 1 year. And if your head explodes and pops off its neck and the fan base is freaking out over this stuff, and the last 2 minutes take 1,000,000 years and something might happen that creates more controversy than it's worth, they won't do it again. And I'm sure Canadian fans that are listening to us right now are like, what are you wringing your hands for? It works up just fine here at the CFL. But this is coming, folks.
Oof, man.
You can't blame them. You know what? It's just, again, what happened in the NFC Championship game was so absurdly egregious. They had to do something. We've discussed it. Now you're saying it might be a triage as to, is it worth it? Is it worth it to change a rule to make sure that never happens again?
But it's
and
the
creates
first time
moments like the one I just described
that
would have happened at the end of Week 15 that nobody's seeing coming right now because there are unintended consequences. Like, nobody was talking about the unintended consequence of a play that you saw that happened doesn't happen because after further review, you could call offensive pass interference for sure, but not really see defensive pass interference to overturn it. Nobody saw this coming. But it's coming.
And that was my point originally why they shouldn't have done anything, because what happened in the NFC Championship game was so rare and so egregious that it won't ever happen again, because the fallout,
you can't say that.
The fallout was so terrible that it would just...
You could say that, and then maybe we're all settling into South Florida next year, and it happens again in the big Super Bowl. Yeah. And, well, if you'd done something about it, now the whole country, the whole world is seeing it. So I guess the answer is just let's see how it all plays out. And if it stinks on ice, it's just 1 year. It's not permanent. But there's going to be, and again, I'm sure defensive players are sitting here thinking, okay, so at least you're going to be consistent that OPI is just as important as DPI. It's both sides.
I'm sure.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.